Do you ever feel like the account team just isn't getting your genius idea, or the project manager won't stop bugging you? The strategist just handed you a really confusing brief, and the media team might as well be speaking a whole other language. We've all been there. Tensions can definitely arise between different ad agency departments, and a lot of times it can feel like you're back in high school where all the different cliques are sitting at different lunch tables.
Now, where you sit in the cafeteria is crucial.
I've worked as an advertising creative for 14 years now, and I wanted to share some of the things that have helped me become friends with and work well with other departments like media, project management, account, and strategy. Put these tips into action and you will be besties with the other departments in no time. So why should you, as a creative, care about other departments? If that's what you're thinking, time to get your ego in check. While I personally think us creatives have the best part of the job, we can't do our jobs without all of those other departments. And all of those other people have the same goal that we do, which is to make great advertising. The problem is each of those other departments might have a different perspective of what great advertising means and how to get there. That's where the tension can happen with all of those different priorities and goals. For us creatives, we want to make something portfolio worthy. Account folks want a strong, trusted relationship with the client. The media department wants killer impressions and ROI. And project management wants all of us to stick to the budget and schedule while we get there. Perspective is key. Take a look at the project through someone else's eyes to understand what their priorities are. So let's break it down department by department to figure out how to be the best partner to everyone. And if you aren't familiar with those departments, check out my other video where I explain what these different roles in an ad agency actually do. First up is account, and here's how you can work well with them, and you're not gonna like the first one. Read your emails and messages. So many creatives hit roadblocks or find themselves confused because they either ignored an email or skimmed it and missed crucial details. Before asking account for something, double check your email or your Slack or Teams or whatever you use to make sure that account didn't already send it to you, because chances are they did. Also, listen to their feedback. Creatives can be very territorial about their ideas and not give due consideration to people who aren't creative. Yes, your creative director is the one you should be listening to and taking direction from, but that doesn't mean you should ignore or disrespect someone else's opinions and suggestions just because they don't have creative in their title. And this tip can be applied to any department, but it just seems like account is the one where this sort of tension arises the most. I like to think of account as the consumer. They're not as privy to the creative ins and outs as we are, so their reaction to the work is likely to be very similar to how the consumer is going to react. And you're not giving up your creative vision just because you're listening to what someone else has to say. And it's so important to consider multiple perspectives when critiquing work. Next up is project management. And I always like to tell my students and juniors to cozy up to their project manager. They will be your lifeline, so you want them to like you. First of all, don't get annoyed when they ask you for status updates. It's their literal job to know what everyone is up to and if you're on track. And when they do ask you where you're at on a project, be honest. If you're swamped, tell them. They can help you prioritize things or even clear things off your plate so that you can focus on the more important stuff. It's also smart to be proactive about schedule changes. Let your project manager know as soon as humanly possible if there's something coming up that's going to prevent you from getting your project done. They are time wizards and can make the impossible possible. If you flag something early and let them know, they're going to help you out. If you flag something last minute, they're probably still going to help you out, but they're not going to be happy about it. When it comes to the strategy department, they have a little bit more of an understanding of the creative process, so it can feel more natural to talk to them. But there are some things you can do to make that relationship even stronger. Dive into the brief and ask them questions. They're making this brief to set you, the creative, up for success to make great work. So be curious about it. Strategists are naturally curious people, so they get excited when you're curious too. Another tip is to actually read the research from the strategist. Oh my God, I have to read emails and research. I promise it'll help you come up with better ideas. Strategy often does focus groups and surveys, and typically they'll provide the creatives with a one-page top-line summary of what they learned. But what I've noticed is while that summary is good, the best, juiciest creative fodder is in the rest of the deck. But strategists are going to assume that creatives don't want to read that. But ask for it. Every time I've asked a strategist for the verbatim quotes from the research, they've gotten so excited, and I have been able to find some really nice creative nuggets in there to come up with fun ideas. And last, we have media. This department can feel like a whole other world. All those numbers and spreadsheets can feel really overwhelming for a creative's brain, but media can be really great creative partners. First, pay attention to the specs. For every campaign, you're going to get a list from the media department that has all of the different types of assets you're going to need to make, all the sizes of those assets, the placements of them. It'll probably be in a spreadsheet, and it'll most likely be pretty difficult to read, but it's super important that you do read it and understand it. And if you don't, ask. They are not going to be mad at you for asking and wanting to learn. And don't be afraid to get their creative input. You don't have to include them in every single brainstorm, but when you can, it can be super helpful to get their input. You could tell them about a rough idea you have, and they can help you come up with some really creative media placements to bring that idea to life. Or if you have an idea that doesn't totally fit in that media plan that you were provided at the beginning of the project, let them know, chat about it, and maybe they can find a creative solution for you. A lot of times they are able to find a creative solution, and sometimes they can even find some wiggle room in the budget to pay for all your wild ideas. Generally, just being a good human and doing your job well goes a long way. Be respectful, reliable, and open to collaboration, and you'll get along just fine with all the other departments. I honestly feel like my respect for other departments and my understanding of their role and motivation was a huge factor in how quick I was able to move up in my career. If there are specific scenarios that you've run into with other departments, let me know in the comments. Or if you have some tips of your own, share those with me too. In the future, I'm going to give some tips from the other perspective and how other departments can work well with creatives. So make sure you're subscribed to see that and more stuff about advertising.